Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed Smith. Today we're going to take a look at a league that I joined back in the summer of 2020 that was run by a commissioner that did many leagues back then and kind of has given way in a lot of leagues. And this league would have folded up this year except for that I agreed to take it over as the commissioner. So it's kind of an inherited league, and you'll kind of see why I'm building something here that maybe makes sense in a year. It's still probably 1 year away from being able to compete, so I've been selling it out here for a couple years, and so this one really probably doesn't get to win until year 4, so a little bit later into the general scheme. So I wanted to make sure that the league had sustainability. It's a really challenging league, and you have to be patient and let the league kind of work its way to the haves and the have-nots, and because of just how the scoring is and then how these starters really are. So this is a full point PPR, but the tight ends have a 2.75 PPR, and the wide receivers have a 1.5 PPR, and every rushing and receiving first down is an additional point. So even your 3 for 32 tight ends, that's three. You're close to 5.5, 7.5. 30 yards is 10, and 3, you're basically 13, between 13 and 15 points just for 3 for 32 from a tight end spot. So as you can tell, you can really get some, if they get 50 yards, for instance, they go 5 for 50 on a given week, you really have something. So putting them in the flex really matters. And so, there's a big scoring there. However, when you look at the starters, we have 2 quarterbacks, 1 super flex. So even though it's a 12-team league, we actually start 3 quarterbacks here. And when you start to do that, then you really run into a lot of zeros if you don't have at least 2, because you have 2 quarterbacks, 1 super flex. So you have to start 2. And it really thins things out by having that super flex there in addition, because then you want to have the haves and the have-nots. And then 3 running backs, 3 receivers, 2 tight ends. Remember, the tight end scoring was crazy. And then 2 additional flex. So in an ideal world, you'll start 3 quarterbacks, 4 tight ends, and if you were to do that, you would just mop up the league. And so it's kind of a slow grind for me to get to that point where I can start 4 tight ends, 3 quarterbacks on a regular basis. So the bench spots are big, so you can really hold players in positions that make sense to really create obsolete areas in other teams. So 18 bench spots, 6 taxi, 5 IR gives you a total of 42 roster spots, and you hold 15.75 players per NFL team. So that's just from the 4 skill position places. So it really drags it out of what you have. And so as you'll see here with some of my players, that they're very deep, but they have a lot of purpose. So we first start to look at the quarterback position, where I have Lamar, Trey Lance, and Baker Mayfield as 3 starters for those 3 spots. But then after that, it winds down to not much else with Flacco and Andy Dalton, Henne, Ellinger, Huntley, and Minshew. And so if any of those bunch of backup quarterbacks become a starter because of injury or whatever else it may be, then that becomes a position of strength with 4 guys that can rotate in there on the bye week, and I don't have to go through 3 different weeks of not having 3 quarterbacks. So that'll be a big key. At the tight end, really don't have a lot here beyond Dawson Knox, and I thought Johnny Smith coming into the year was going to be something, or back in 2020 especially, and he's kind of fallen by the wayside. But in a league like this, you just take it. Now Gray and Hunter Long are project type tight ends, but with a little bit of luck and Long getting a starting gig in Miami, that may change the whole dynamic here a little bit of what we have starting wise, and might get closer to that 4 spot with 3. And then Asiasi and Bell, Blake Bell from Kansas City is just really an afterthought, but it's somebody else that can't start him when he's on our team, so that's a good thing. Looking at the running backs here on this team, and I'm shooting through some of this pretty quick, but because it's going to take us to where we're trying to go with this team. But I have Akers, which was the only real running back, and we start 3, and then after that it becomes really desolate. So we have Herbert, Khalil Herbert, and Gus Edwards, Keyshawn Vaughn, Tony Jones, Breida, and Mekhi Sargent. Now, need some luck to have some of those come in, but maybe Akers and Gus start, and then we just need to find one of those other ones, on a non-bye week to make the world go around. But then we look at the receivers, and there's some receivers, but a point and a half PPR can work in those flex spots. But here we're kind of thin as well, with AJ Brown and Zay Jones kind of leading the way, and Chark. And so there's not a lot to get rid of here. Even if Chark gets to a good landing spot, we might be forced to kind of keep him here and have to keep AJ Brown just to build around in the 3 receiver starting situation. Then Mims and Denami Brown and Noah Brown are all just kind of afterthoughts and just roster fillers at this point. And it's not hard to see why this team was a last place finishing team this year. Because Lamar was hurt and Lance didn't play. And, so when you start to eliminate some of those players, and Akers was hurt, there isn't much here. We did kick the can down the path a little bit, and there's going to be some first round picks coming in the future years. So if this thing doesn't win this year, which I don't anticipate it will, it's more about picking players. And in a 3 quarterback league, we know the 101 is going to be a quarterback. It's probably going to be, as we are right now, Malik Willis will be that 101 pick, and that'll add a 4th quarterback to the room, really. So that's good with a team that starts with Lance and Malik Willis and Lamar. Even if Baker doesn't flames out at some point, that'll be something we could trade and get some pieces for here over the course of the year. And then the number 6 spot, I really think it's still a running back, because I think we'll see 3 quarterbacks go, and then of the 3 running backs will still be left at number 6. So to fill that in behind Akers is kind of my plan at this point, and Gus Edwards, and then we have 3. So then it's kind of like now it comes down to the bye weeks and how we're going to navigate those 3 bye weeks, and if they're on the same bye week, and maybe we have to punt a week just to try to work our way to the playoffs. But as thin as this is, there's other teams that are thinner, if that makes any sense, just because we do have more quarterbacks than most, and our tight end with Knox, is kind of where it is. With the 13th pick, I already feel like that's McBride just all day, unless he goes before that, and that would strengthen the tight end room. And then 18 is going to be a receiver at this point, so you kind of, when you have a draft this deep, you feel like with those picks, you almost know what they are. And then 25, 27, 33 are going to be best available players, and probably my top 30 players that are still left to me there. And then once we start getting to 37, 38, 42, 46, 49, 51, 57, 58, and then finally 61, 63, 69, and 70, all those picks are dart throw picks. But I guess I'm feeling like with them, if I can just pluck a running back and a receiver out of all those picks that could become starters or like flex option guys or bye week replacement guys, that'll take this team to the next level, and it actually might have a chance to win, in the more shorter term, or at least get to the playoffs with a little bit of luck. But more realistically, the approach on this team, I really feel like, because it is so deep, that we're really scrapping it up and going to keep building. And I wouldn't be upset if it was a early pick again, and with a couple extra first round picks next year. I think there's 3, and at that point we would actually be able to really push forward with this team, and maybe take a couple more quarterbacks and a couple more running backs, and we're gonna get a receiver here and there every year. We're gonna get a tight end here or there every year, and keep adding to it, and I really think that we're this league, year 4, year 5 is when it really begins to take off, and we just keep kicking the can down and keep working our way towards it, and then this thing will become a team that'll be tough to beat, once we get to that point. Now, it might be one of those teams that gets in my long range plan, because it's a little bit lower stakes league, that I'll look to win, get my money back, and then maybe sell the team for just even a once it's profitable, just kind of cut my losses and move on from it. And so that is really one of the goals. And so we'll be moving the commissioner duties away to another commissioner at some point here as well. But we're going to keep building, keep going after it, and trying to turn this thing into a profitable experience. And I think it gets there. I think the quarterbacks are good enough to get us there, and we just hope to do it before Akers gets too old, or gets to the 26th age season. But even if he's at 24 and 25 and we're pushing him, with AJ Brown, in the 26, 27 range, those 2 years, there might be some chance here to really make some make some coin with his team, and Dawson Knox, there as well. So pretty excited about the outlook of the team, just not real excited about the 2022 outlook of this team. So let me know in the comments what you think of this team, and please hit the subscribe button, get the notification bell checked off as well, and like the video. And let me know if you think that I'm wrong about this team not making the playoffs this year. But I'm sure you won't tell me that. But this is a rough build in general, and even looking at the picks, there wasn't much here. It just wasn't much to go. And quarterbacks, this is where I learned that quarterbacks went off the board way faster than I ever thought. It stands as a reason, but with three quarterbacks, three quarterback league and a two quarterback one superflex, that's actually different than a one quarterback two superflex league. And so, what I found is that many teams actually have to take zeros at the quarterback spot, and the weeks that Huntley starts, you have to have him. And Huntley next year will command a first round pick if he would start some games, because like I have the Lamar owner, but like if Minshew started games, he would command a first round pick back because of how important it is. If the Jalen Hurts owner at that point doesn't have a quarterback to start, and would take a 0 and a loss and knock him out of the playoffs. So a lot of times now that will be a late round first round pick, but a lot of times it will net back a first round pick, which is pretty good for that backup quarterback position. So I usually try to fill that up with everybody I can. Right now, looking at Blake Bell in case he signs somewhere or something kind of crazy happens, but we'd probably drop those types of guys at some point, Tony Jones types, and pick up backup quarterbacks once we get into it here a little bit. But that's kind of what we see in the team right now. And so let me know what your thoughts are, and thank you for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow with another team.